Straight ahead on Law&Crime Daily. Never before seen body camera footage of the moments leading up to Dante Wright's death.
Dante Wright.
Dante
Wright.
You're under arrest, Dante.
And a verdict handed down in a polarizing case as TV star Jussie Smollett faces possible prison time. Plus, a new ruling on abortion laws in Texas. We're breaking down the Supreme Court ruling. And later, the Murdoch murder mystery. What new charges the disgraced South Carolina attorney now faces. Law&Crime Daily covering court cases from coast to coast. Welcome everyone to Law&Crime Daily. I'm Brian Buckmeyer along with Terry Austin. Strong testimony brings week one of Kim Potter's trial to a close as we hear from an officer who was there at the time of the shooting. His never-before-seen body camera footage shows what happened in the moments after Kim Potter shot Daunte Wright.
We're going to need additional units to Noble and 63rd. Kim, take a breath, okay? Just breathe.
Potter, an ex-Minnesota police officer, faces first- and second-degree manslaughter charges in the death of 20-year-old Wright. Friday's testimony detailed the April 11th traffic stop when Wright was pulled over. Officers then attempted to take him into custody for an arrest warrant. Potter shot Wright in the chest. He died as a result of the injuries. Potter maintained she accidentally grabbed her gun instead of a taser. On Friday, Major Michael Johnson took the stand where the defense pressed him on police procedure.
And then after she said she shot him, she was really having a difficult time saying, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God," correct?
Yes.
And you were concerned about her, correct?
Yes.
And then she said, oh my God, I'm going to go to prison." Do you remember her saying that?
Yes.
And Lucky said, according to the video, "No, you're not. No, you're not." Then you said, "Kim, the guy that was trying to take off with me in the car." You agree you said that, right?
Yes.
And if he had taken off with you in that car halfway, what would have happened to you? What would you think would be the worst that would happen?
Probably dragged.
Dragged and what?
Injured.
Seriously injured, maybe even dead, right?
Yes.
And if that were the case, would an officer in your position, with Officer Potter trying to stop him from resisting with you and resisting Lucky, would it be fair for that officer to use a firearm to stop him?
By state statute, yes.
And while the prosecution's questioning may have started smoothly, its redirect was riddled with objections.
So what Ms. Potter used here was deadly force.
Yes.
And when you use deadly force, you have to consider surroundings.
Yes.
And when you...
The objection is sustained.
Okay.
No leading
I'm
questions, please.
I will rephrase. When you use deadly force, do you need to consider surroundings?
Yes.
And do you need to know whether you could shoot another police officer or another person?
Yes.
Could Officer Potter, in using a firearm, have shot you?
Possible.
Could...
And the objection is sustained.
Joining us today is L.A. County Deputy Public Defender Philip Dubé and Terry Austin. Philip, the defense got Officer Johnson to say that by statute, Potter was allowed to shoot her gun. Is this the first brick in the road to an acquittal?
Oh, my goodness. This is the first step toward reasonable doubt for Officer Potter. Oftentimes, the police policies and procedure manual are much narrower than what the law allows for. And defenses are very fluid throughout a trial, and they can develop during opening statement, during testimony, and even in closing argument. So even though the defense may have been this was an accident, by all accounts, according to this prosecution expert/witness, Kim Potter's behavior was completely lawful. It's significant because the first-degree manslaughter charge is premised upon reckless handling of a firearm. And if the discharge was in fact lawful, you do not have recklessness. And the standard is that she created an unjustifiable and substantial risk of great bodily injury or death, but if it was lawful by statute, that's reasonable doubt.
Makes sense, Terry. The defense seems to be pushing the theory that Potter shot Wright to save the life of a fellow officer. How does that work with the manslaughter charges?
Well, it's interesting. Philip is right. The defense is changing its case as the evidence comes in. Basically, they were saying, well, this is an accident. Now they're saying it was the appropriate use of force, whether she was using her taser or her gun, because they're trying to say that she was protecting Officer Johnson's life. So I think what the prosecution has to do now is come back and say, look, she shouldn't have been using a taser or a gun. It was dangerous. She was, infringing on the life of others possibly. And so I think it's going to be a hard task for the prosecution at this point.
Yeah, there's definitely a day that I think the defense made some headway in their case. Thank you both. The first week gave us gripping testimony from first responders, but also those closest to Daunte Wright. Law&Crime Daily's Sierra Gillespie spoke with Wright's family attorney, who explains how the family is coping amidst the high-profile case.
Brian, emotions are running high in Minnesota as the family of Dante Wright prepares for their first holiday season without him. Just 7 months removed from his death, the Wright family attorney Jeff Storms tells me it's an emotional time to begin a trial.
This is when you're hugging your loved ones at Thanksgiving or Christmas. And, he was, by all accounts, sort of the class clown, right, for the family. He was someone, had a big smile, could make the family laugh. For all of them, it's left a huge hole.
In the shadow of this trial looms the George Floyd and Derek Chauvin case.
Philonise Floyd and Brandon Williams came to give support to Dante Wright's family. Those families got to know each other really well because Dante was killed in the middle of that trial.
But the Potter trial includes testimony from one key witness the Chauvin trial lacked.
It was the worst day of my life.
The one piece of testimony we didn't get to hear in that case was a parent losing a child. Just the loss of a child, to listen to a mother talk about it, it's just so strong. I don't know if there is a dry eye after watching something like that.
It was Katie Bryant, the mother of Dante Wright, who served as the prosecution's first witness.
Did you see your son's body on the ground? I did.
Storm says the emotional testimony affected the entire family.
I mean, it was so hard for everyone in that room to watch Katie testify, for her children to see her in that kind of pain. It made it so hard to watch on multiple levels in the room, because it's, I am an attorney on the ground here in Minnesota. I know the Wright family really well. And it was already hard to watch Katie in that kind of pain. And then to watch her kids, sort of experiencing that trauma, for her, and reliving their feelings about Dante being killed. It was probably one of the more emotional things that I think I've ever seen.
Brian, you were interviewed by law enforcement, and you had an attorney named Jeff Storms representing you, correct?
Correct.
In cross-examination, the defense pressed Bryant for information about her attorneys, even calling out Storms by name.
You expect that when you walk into any room, that if there's a statement given at some point, someone's going to point out that, you had a civil rights or personal injury lawyer. The defense is, starting with its attack on Dante. And so it's a very challenging thing to watch a family go through.
Rounding out the first week of the trial, Storms tells me the Wright and Bryant family are impressed with the prosecution so far and have full faith in its case moving forward. For Law&Crime Network, I'm Sierra Gillespie.
Thank you for that interview, Sierra. And of course, great reporting as always. Still ahead on Law&Crime Daily, the Supreme Court makes a contentious ruling on the Texas abortion ban. But first, a guilty verdict and an end to the Jussie Smollett hoax attack trial in Chicago. Our legal analyst explains what's next for the former Empire actor.
Hi, this is Dan Abrams with exciting news for all of our Law and Crime followers on YouTube. You can now get the live Law and Crime network with YouTubeTV for all of your daily live trial coverage, legal news, expert analysis, and original true crime programs. Subscribe to YouTubeTV today and then locate Law and Crime in the channel guide. And for only $1.99 a month, you can add the network to your bundle. Watch Law and Crime every day with YouTubeTV. We put you in the jury box.
Welcome back to Law and Crime Daily. An Illinois jury finds former Empire actor Jussie Smollett guilty of hiring 2 men to help him stage a hate crime attack. Jurors found Smallett guilty of 5 of 6 counts of felony disorderly conduct for filing false police reports, claiming he was attacked by 2 men who used anti-gay and racial slurs. Smallett also claimed the men placed a noose around his neck and poured bleach on him. The 2 men, who are brothers, testified Smallett paid them to help him with a hoax to help his career. Smallett took the stand and denied the claim. He will be sentenced next year and faces possible prison time. Smollett's lawyers say they will appeal. Let's bring back LA County Deputy Public Defender Philip Dubé and Terry Austin to discuss this verdict and what's next for Smallett. Terry, it seems Smollett's testimony did not ring true in the ears of the jurors. Is this verdict what you expected after hearing all of the evidence?
Absolutely. He was one of the most incredibly false witnesses I've ever heard. His statements did not ring true to anyone, especially as far as his jury's concerned. His testimony was inconsistent. He basically knew his perpetrators. How are you going to know the perpetrators and then claim that they attacked you? He paid, $3,500 to stage the incident. He said the news was on the whole time. Then he literally took it off and put it back on. He didn't cooperate with authorities. He wouldn't give the authorities his phone. He didn't give the authorities, any medical information. So basically, he looked really bad on the stand. And I think the jury realized that every single thing he said was a lie. And they found him guilty on 5 of the 6 counts.
Yeah, that makes sense based on the verdict. Philip, Smallett is now facing up to 3 years in prison. As a public defender, you have some experience pleading for the lesser sentence. What's the argument that Smallett shouldn't get jail time here?
Well, first of all, I think the prosecution is hanging their hat on the fact that they spent a boatload of money to crack the case. On a personal level, and legally speaking, I don't think the cost of prosecution should ever factor into what sentence a person gets. Now, having said that, from what I understand, Jussie has absolutely no criminal record. Being branded a felon for life oftentimes is punishment enough. To have to go through life and explain to the world you're a felon sometimes is worse than doing a little time. Now, on the other hand, he did cause people to detract whatever victimhood there could be toward LGBTs and Black people. And as a result, we need to have something in place to prevent and deter this behavior in the future. I could see a judge giving him 90 days.
All right, we'll see 90 days. I know probation is still on the table as well, but we'll see when that verdict and the sentence, comes in. Switching now to federal court out of Arkansas, a guilty verdict for former reality TV star Josh Duggar for accessing and downloading child pornography. Known for his role in 19 Kids and Counting, Duggar was arrested in April. The TLC show was canceled in 2015 amid Duggar's molestation scandal, when a previously sealed police report revealed that he allegedly inappropriately touched multiple young girls, including his sisters. Then, in 2019, authorities say they traced child pornography downloads to Duggar's work IP address. During a bond hearing in May, investigators say Duggar had dozens of photos and videos depicting the sexual abuse of children as young as toddlers. The defense argued someone else downloaded the images and videos. Duggar now faces up to 40 years in prison and up to a $500,000 fine. His sentencing is set to happen in a few months, with no date set as of yet. Coming up on Law and Crime Daily, new developments in the twisted web of the Murdoch murder mystery. The Supreme Court makes a contentious ruling on a strict Texas abortion law. We break down the ruling ahead. Welcome back to Law and Crime Daily. The Supreme Court makes its ruling on a controversial Texas abortion law, making the procedure illegal after 6 weeks of pregnancy. But justices also ruled abortion providers have the right to challenge this law in federal court. This makes the Texas abortion laws the most restrictive in the nation. The law was put in place on September 1st. In October, United States Supreme Court justices heard oral arguments on the contentious law. This week, the Supreme Court refused to block the law, meaning Texas abortions are not permitted after 6 weeks, often before women know they are pregnant. The law does not make exceptions for cases involving rape or incest. SCOTUS did rule, however, that Texas abortion providers can sue state officials in federal court and continue to challenge the ban. Back to discuss the Supreme Court ruling is LA County Deputy Public Defender Philip Dubé and co-host Terry Austin. Terry, SCOTUS seems to be worried about the enforcement of the law, not as much the merits of abortions. What did the court decide based on the arguments?
You know, the court blocked anyone from, basically they refused to block the law that Texas imposed. And it is the most restrictive in the nation. And as you said, after 6 weeks, the, woman cannot decide to bring an abortion, even if there's rape or incest. To me, making the, abortion law effective and not saying anything about what the providers can do, saying that they can continue to challenge, to me, that seems inconsistent. It's a cop-out.
Yeah. Now, Philip, where does this leave the law for abortions in Texas?
Well, at this point, what it really means is that it's subjecting the aiders and abettors, if you will, to abortions to civil liability. The law remains intact. But what I predict is going to happen is that people who bring suit are going to be facing cross complaints because I believe that this law conflicts with federal HIPAA laws, Texas medical privacy, and also there's a state constitutional provision in Texas that just provides for Texans to be let alone in their personal and medical affairs. So I think this will create a boatload of additional litigation.
Yeah, I think the issue of abortion is still there, but the side issues, as you put up there, Philip, are really going to create a tangled web in Texas. And of course, we'll peel back that web as it continues here on Law and Crime Daily. When we come back, a former South Carolina attorney faces new charges. The Murdoch murder mystery case grows as the new indictments bring his charges to nearly 50 in total. Welcome back to Law and Crime Daily. It's a case that captured the nation's attention nearly 2 decades ago. Now convicted wife killer Scott Peterson is back in the spotlight. He was resentenced Wednesday to life in prison without parole for the murder of his wife Lacey and their unborn son Connor on Christmas Eve 2002. TV cameras were not allowed in the courtroom during the hearing. Lacey's mother and siblings spoke, telling Peterson he, quote, will always be their murderer. Peterson could get a new trial if a court determines juror misconduct was present. Peterson's sister responded to the resentencing this week and described seeing her brother once again in the courtroom.
Seeing Scott in the courtroom yesterday mirrored what I had seen 17 years ago. Scott still appears to be vacant and emotionless. Even with the mask on, and it was hard to see the rest of his face, I still saw that. Yesterday, after hearing Lacey's siblings and her mother speak, I realized that although 17 years had passed, the feelings of complete sadness, loss, and anguish still exist.
And in South Carolina, the twisted web of the Murdoch murder mystery continues to spin as 21 new charges are handed down to the disgraced attorney, Alec Murdoch. This now brings the total to 12 indictments and 48 separate charges stemming from allegations that Murdoch defrauded victims more than $6 million. He's charged with breach of trust, fraudulent intent, computer crimes, money laundering, and forgery. He's also charged with insurance fraud for allegedly stealing money from the estate of Gloria Statterfield, Murdoch's housekeeper who died mysteriously on the family property in 2018. All this is just the latest twist in the so-called Murdoch murder mystery. In June, Murdoch's wife, Maggie, and son, Paul, were found dead on their family property. Murdoch has been named a person of interest in the case, but no charges have been filed. In September, Murdoch claimed he was shot in the head while changing a flat tire. He later revealed it was all part of a botched suicide by hire plan meant to leave remaining son, Buster, with an insurance payout. A bond hearing for Murdoch is scheduled for next week. Philip, is it normal, and how does it work for Murdoch to be charged with some crimes one day, then 21 more the next?
Well, first of all, they had to bring him in ASAP to prevent him from reoffending. It seems like every time he turned around, there was new charges that were being unearthed. But what they can do is essentially bring him in, hold him, and keep investigating all the other leads to the other crimes that they have, and perhaps listen in on jail calls, get more documents, start building the case. You know, it's not as if they have unlimited resources to investigate every allegation and every crime. So as they start to solve, if you will, or crack each allegation, they'll add additional charges. And it's just time consuming. The good news is he's behind bars and he cannot reoffend, assuming he, doesn't commit any crimes while in custody.
Yeah, we'll see what kind of insurance fraud he may or may not be able to get into while in custody. Terry, 48 charges. Break those down. The worst of them for us, maybe he gets some jail time. What is Murdoch looking at now going forward?
I think the worst of the crimes is the crime where he is offending these individual victims versus an insurance company. And the charges are all felonies. He could basically face hundreds of years in prison. And to your point, there are 48 charges against this individual. I think there's no question that he is going to be serving quite a bit of jail time. And the fact that he created a fraudulent bank account just to get all of this money, it really is a horrible case. He has really gone down.
Absolutely. We'll see how this case goes. Thank you for joining us here on Law and Crime Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.